this time. And I think that, one of the things Brian and I have in common is that, we both realize that life is energy, and everything that happens in the planet, it's interactive, and yet very few people have language and frameworks to see that. So that's why we do what we do. It's like to bring some knowledge forward into everyday life about how to see ourselves as energy beings and how to get connected to the bigger flow that's moving around us. So we know in yoga that there's this true nature and that there's this energy behind the back of everything that's happening, and how to plug into that is the purpose of these offerings, because we're in this fast changing energy system right now. And it might seem that the COVID-19 is separate to us, and it's something that's happening out there in the external world, and it's imposing its restrictions on us in our lives. And yet, how we think about what's happening out in that outer world is really what's going to create and generate our experience. So we wanted to be able to introduce some different views on that, and invite a healing conversation around the healing potentials of this time, because there's so much possibility for change and shifting it up really fast, as we are seeing. So yeah, we really wanted to be able to bring some conversation in about that. Yeah. So that's what tonight's about.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that everybody that is here and everybody that will see this once we share it later on, that hope that everyone is okay. And I wanted to start actually before continuing talking, to just help us ground into the space. So I'm going to invite everyone to just take a moment to close your eyes and to take a few deep exhales. And with each exhale, letting go of everything that came before. Letting go of the past, of how you got into this online call, whether you were eating before or doing something else. That's all gone. So letting go of the past, letting go of everything and anything that needs to happen afterwards. So letting go of the future. It's not here yet. And as we let go of the past and we let go of the future, I invite you to give yourself the permission to be here, present, now, in your body. Allowing the breath to find a more natural rhythm. And to go in. And to notice, how does your inner landscape look like at this moment? Try not to label it, try not to judge it, just experiencing, feeling. And bringing your awareness to your heart. Bringing your awareness down to your heart space. So that even though we are in a distance, and we are virtually connecting, we can connect from heart to heart. And before we open our eyes and continue the conversation, I'm going to invite you to remain in this space connected to your heart so we can have this conversation from this space. So when you're ready, I invite you to come back into the space. And with Cameron, for the ones that don't know me or Cameron, I'm Brian. We've been working together now for 4.5 years, almost 5, almost since I came to New Zealand. And it was a very interesting and synchronistic experience that led us to connect and to start being on this journey together, which is a long story, so I won't like go into it. But I think that, and we were talking this morning earlier with Cameron, how what we've been doing for the last few years in terms of starting to bring some of these ways of being and seeing life, how at this moment they are really necessary. And this is partly why we want to bring this conversation and to do it in a way that it's a conversation, because we are all in a different place, not only physically but energetically, emotionally, what is happening in our circumstances. So as we go through this session and then the following webinars, I do encourage everyone to share or ask as well, so that this is a collaborative conversation and not just us talking. So I do encourage everyone to do that. But saying that, I'm just going to a little bit of admin. I'm going to turn everyone's microphones off, just so that we can hear okay. But anytime that you do want to say something, either wave so I can notice and then I'll unmute your microphone, or just write on the chat and then we can go through that. So I'm just going to do that. And okay. Yes. So Cameron, I think that yours is still open.
Okay.
Yes.
What do I do?
Nothing. I just wanted to make sure that your microphone was okay. Yes.
Don't stop it.
Yes, you're talking. Cool. Yeah, so if you want Cameron to start talking a little bit the idea behind as well this specific session today.
Sure. Yeah. So, as we all know, we are living in a world in transition right now. And this time of change has been predicted by many Indigenous cultures around the world. And it's something I've been hearing about for about 40 years. I've been going to gatherings and circles and hearing about this big time of consciousness shifting and awakening, whereby the ways that we've been doing general life and things would be altered, And as part of that alteration, there'd be quite a shift in how we think about our lives and who we are. And I believe that the COVID situation is the catalyst for that shift. So literally overnight, we have, in the last 3 months, we've stopped flying. We've suddenly come into living these regional lives, and we're being asked to come inside. Every single person in the planet that's reached my authorities is being governed and told to sort of, come in and pull in. And from my point of view, from a Chinese medicine point of view, we talk about yin yang. And yin yang are these opposite forces of life. So yang is the active, stimulating, expansive. It's the energy like the sun. It's outgoing, it's fast. It's to do with growth. It's to do with stimulation. And its opposite side is yin, which is to do with slowness. It's to do with the earth. It's to do with grounding. It's to do with calming, and it's to do with conservation. So leading up to this change, there was a lot of angst in the world about how we're going to handle these changes that we need on our Mama Earth very urgently. How will we bring that about? And nobody knew that. And yet, now we know. So that change has happened very, very fast. And we are literally being brought back to ground. So we're living on our own home ground again. Like most of us have to stay near where we live. And that is how people used to live centuries ago. People just lived in their local little hoods. They didn't go out and travel. And they lived in communities, close communities, and they grew food and they relied on each other and all the rest of it. So we are right now, we're back at that. And we don't know how long we're going to be back at that, but certainly for now, we're letting go of a world that we knew of. And a lot of that old world is not going to come back. There's a lot of change that's going to happen. And this has been predicted for many years. And the good thing about that is that we knew it needed to happen, right? So we knew that what we were doing with the earth wasn't sustainable. We knew that we needed to make changes. We didn't know how. That's happened now. And so automatically what we're seeing is that just the quiet in the airspace and the quiet in the waterways, Mama Earth is rejuvenating. So Earth knows how to do that. Mama Earth is a living, breathing energy system that is our communal home. So in our individual beings, our Earth is our center, and it's our sense of being at home in ourselves. So when something big changes on the earth, it affects our sense of being at home in ourselves. It's just a natural influence. And I know in 2011, I was in Christchurch when the big earthquakes came. So I lived there for a year through that period. So there were multiple earthquakes for about 1 year, big, 0.6 point something earthquakes every few days. So the same thing that we're seeing now happened then. So our lives were interrupted. People couldn't go to work anymore. We didn't have food, we didn't have water, there was no power, there was nothing. So suddenly everybody had to just change their life overnight. And what was beautiful to see, and we're seeing it here too, is that people knew what to do. Instinctively, people know what to do when they need to. But we've had our instincts shut down, and we've had our knowing of what to do when, and our connection to heart-centered awareness, which is like an overall awareness, like the sun and the sky. Most of us are not connected to that anymore because we've been conditioned to think by the head. So the head-based learning is all to do with analysis and facts and reasoning and rationing and logical thinking. And so right now, what we're dealing with, it's not very logical. If we look out at the world with our head, we sort of can't really work out how this is going to work out. So the gift of that is that we need to come to heart. So when Brian's doing his introduction, he's saying, like, if we can live in our lives where there's no past and there's no future, and we're right here where we need to be now with whoever we're with, then we have connection. Because our heart is our connection. It's our connection to our deep truth. It's our connection to the oneness source of life. And it's our connection to each other. So when we come to heart-centered living, we naturally know what to do. The heart guides us. And instinctively we know that. You know, there's sayings about that in every language in the world. You know, people talk about being open-hearted, clear-hearted, kind-hearted, good-hearted. We know that the heart is the leader of our lives, but we don't have language for that. So part of what we wanted to do was to offer these webinars to be able to talk about this world in transition and to be able to provide, you know, some really grounded steps and some heart-opening practices to enable us to manage navigating this time of change by staying grounded and staying open. Because in a big change, all we need to know is the very next step.
Yeah.
But in our conditioned world, we've been conditioned to think we're going to go over there, we're going to take this step, this step, this step, this step, we'll get there, and then we'll get a big tick. We've all been trained to think that that's how to do life. And right now, that approach is not going to work because we don't even know where we're going anymore. The world's changing that much. And the beautiful thing that I see is that young people, and I guess this is, you know, where Brian and I, our connection is partly founded on this notion of, you know, intergenerational learning. Like people my age have had life experience. People Brian's age have lots of energy and new ideas and ideas that aren't of the old time. So I was conditioned by the old time ideas. And everybody my age and older, they're back in dark ages thinking. Current age thinking is about connection. So we have the internet, which is a worldly manifestation of the world of connection, instant, immediate connection. And in our body, we have an internet. It's called the triple header, and it's the electrical system of the heart. And when our triple head is balanced, we have access to our own inner knowing, and we have access to being able to take that knowing out and plug into someone else's. And we also have access to be able to plug into the knowing of the whole cosmos. That's what we're capable of, but we don't learn how to do that at school. For obvious reasons.
Yeah, and I think that as Cameron is just saying, one of the interesting things about the time that we're going through now is that we don't know where that's going. Most of us are not okay in the unknown. Most of us haven't been working and practicing in a way that we are okay with the not knowing. We are not usually okay with change. Like a lot of times we resist change. And when all of the sudden this happened, I was talking with one of my clients the other day, and I told him, just like he came to me when he hit rock bottom, most people only change when that happens. And we were as a planet, we were in a sense like almost there at the bottom. Like the Earth resources, like weren't coping anymore. The way that a lot of disconnection has been happening, that's not okay anymore. The amount of people that are disconnected or don't have enough in a world that there's a lot, the mental health issues and suicides that are happening, and not even going to that extent, the anxiety that all of this situation is bringing up and the stress for a lot of people. Most people don't have the tools on how to deal with this. And one of the things that Cameron talks a lot usually is how life is a mystery. And when we partner life as a mystery, when we understand that I have no idea when life is going to take me. Like everyone that had plans for traveling this year or for work or anything, most plans were just like gone. So how do we adapt to life when life is so unpredictable, when there's so much unknown? And this, of course, was a huge one, but every single day we actually are living in that. Every single day we are living without really knowing what will happen. And even if we have a plan, if we have an idea and a direction, we don't know if that is actually going to come into fruition. And having the tools to understand how to navigate through that and how not to be attached with an outcome. And if things change, then things change and I adapt, because that's what we do. We adapt as individuals, we adapt as civilization, as animals, as beings, the planet adapts. We all adapt. It's just that we have that resistance to change. And we need to relearn and reconnect with our innate knowing that it's okay with the unknown, that it's okay with not knowing what will happen, that it's okay with having the world shaking a little bit underneath your foot, because everything is unknown. And when for me, one of the ways that I really learned about this was when I started learning more and more, and not only here in my head, but experientially, how life is energy and everything is energy, and understand that the only thing that energy does is that it keeps on changing. It's never static, it never stays the same. And if I am energy, if everything is energy, and the only truth, or one of the main truths, is that everything is changing, then I need to allow myself to flow with the change and not to try to prevent change, and use every single opportunity as that, as an opportunity. Every single moment that goes in the day is a new chance for me to recreate, to relearn, to make anything that I want anew, and anything that I don't want, I can just leave it behind, because each moment is new. So the more that we understand life from that unknown and that mystery, the better that we can partner with it.
And that's a step-by-step thing, you know. So when we're, you know, going through a lot of change, and we have three phases really. One is like letting go. So we're right now we're in a letting go phase. Like we've let go of a life that we knew, and over the next few weeks we're probably going to get to realize how much of that old life we've let go. So we don't know yet at the moment, but there is a lot of release that will be happening. So if you've got low energy, or if you're attached, or if you're a person who's really dependent on things being the same, this will be a really hard time. Whereas if you just can, you know, accept whatever's happening is always what's needing to happen, because we're in an interconnected energy system. So if something's happening in our immediate environment, that's because that's needing to happen. So right now we're in this collective happening, letting go. And if we can even hold the idea, this could be the best thing that's ever happened to me, and open up to the possibilities that the new will bring, then you start to pull that into existence. Because what we know from science is that energy, it has energy waves, and then it has a director. So the mind directs the energy. When we think about things in a certain way, it directs the energy that's out there. So we literally create what's going to happen by how we think about what's happening. So instead of hanging on to what was and wishing that we had that, if we can just give ourselves permission to realize that's gone now, and something new and more amazing and more wow is coming. And then we've got all our energy available to go into the new. And that's like surfing a wave, right? You're out there in the waves and some really good waves. You miss really amazing waves. And you think, oh, I didn't get that one, but there's another one. So if we just get into the wave of this energy and flow with it and open up to the possibilities, then this new life that we've all been, or that many of us have been dreaming about, is going to come into manifestation. And to begin with that, it's just like, identify, what am I clear about right now? So right now in my immediate environment with whoever I'm with. So we're in bubbles together, we're with these people. What's going on in my immediate environment that I need to attend to? The physical space, like what do I need to do in the physical space? Tidying, cleaning, throwing out rubbish, letting go of old stuff. What do I do with these relationships that are around me? Am I in truth? Am I in, real connection with the people that I'm in relationship with, that I'm in my bubble with, that are in my immediate environment? What do I need to do with my immediate space? Because we've been brought into inside space. And so coming into inside space, we're going to be aware of what's there. Because whatever was going on for us before this happened, it's going to be really sitting with us now. So to just reflect on that a little bit, like what do I need to let go of? What am I letting go of that no longer served me? Like it's been taken away. It might seem that life just took that, but we're all making this big shift happen. And if we embrace it in that way and we just ask ourselves, what did I really need to let go of from that old life? What about that old life does no longer serve me? And what do I know is really important that I want to take forward from today into my future? And what's my next smallest step? So sometimes when we don't know what's coming up, we can run a lot of anxiety about that. So anxiety is like living in the future and feeling concerned about what will happen in the future, or worry about the past. Anxiety collapses when we come right to now. So when we come to now and just ask ourselves, what do I need to attend to today? What do I need to attend to this week? What do I need to attend to this month? What are the cleanups that I'm needing to do to clear the energy around me? Because right now, that's our work, to clear the energy around our space. As we clear the energy around our own personal space, because we're at home in that personal space, then when we go back to whatever world we go to, there'll be a clearer path for us.
Yeah. And what you're saying, Cameron, for me always brings me back into two ways of thinking about this. One is when I am seeing what is happening now with the world, and I'm seeing how the system is changing, perhaps not as fast or as much as I would like to, but the systems are changing. And how can I create that change? And how can I engage in a way that I'm helping that? But at the same time, knowing that that is too big, that might be too much and too daunting. I can focus on me. I can focus on making sure that I am okay, as Cameron was saying, that my space is okay, that what I can control, I can control. So it's very important to make sure that we understand that there's a lot of things that are out of my control, out of our control. And the more that we focus on that, the more anxiety we're going to have. The more that I can focus on what is it that I can control. As Cameron was just saying, is it tidying up my room? Is it tidying up something? Is it talking to the person that I'm in with to make sure that nothing that has been left unsaid is said? The more that I can take care of the things that I can control, the easier that my life is going to be. And actually, the more that each of us take responsibility for that and create the change that is needed in our lives, that starts to actually spread. And that is how we end up creating the change that we want to see in the system, in the outside world. And some things, of course, require action to change, but a lot of things is just like from a standpoint, it's all about energy, consciousness, and spreading that frequency. So the more that we are aligned and we are in a good frequency, taking care of our own energy, then that change will start happening. So always for me is coming back to my body, coming back to my breath, understanding that the vehicle that I have of my body, it's an amazing piece of technology. As Cameron was saying before, like we have this web, like just like the internet, we have this internet. This is amazing. We are not even close to untapping its full potential. So the more that I connect here, the more that I am connected to the present moment. So just like we did at the beginning, just letting go of the past, letting go of the future, the more that I'm grounded in my body, the easier that my life will be. So for me, I make sure that every single day I practice. I connect with my own practices. Everybody connects in a different way. And that is one of the key things that I always tell people. You don't have to do the same type of meditation. You don't have to like the classes that I do. Each person will connect in a different way. But making sure that we are connecting to make sure that we are in our bodies, so that we are not going too much out and we're able to go in. We're able to stay present regardless of what we are doing. So I can be talking here, or I can be out for a walk, or I can be before all of this working, and I was still present in my body. I was always aware of my feet, always aware of my hands and my fingers, always aware of my breath, to make sure that I am present. So just like we did before, like that connecting to the heart, I can go into any situation in my life from my heart. So always connected. I'm still using my head. I still need to think. I still need to do things. Those practical things, this can take care of. But coming from here to make sure that I am partnering with life from there. So one of the key things for me is understanding that we're not learning this at school. Like only the ones of us that either have been lucky enough or privileged enough to have parents or a life situation that introduced us to some kind of teaching or ancient wisdom, we are the lucky ones. Most people don't have this knowledge or tools. So how can we make sure that we are staying in a good place and help spreading this to make sure that we go helping everyone that is there with us, because we're a community and we need to keep on going with that.
And we can look to the archetypes. So archetypes is a way of looking at the patterns of life. So we have like a male archetype and a female archetype. So the masculine energy is more to do with action and doing and, strong and reaching up, that masculine energy. Feminine energy is more about soft, it's about yielding, it's about coming in. So we have these ways of looking at life based on the general energies of life. We wanted to do this series on transforming with the earth because we can use Mama Earth herself to teach us how to be with this time. So in Chinese medicine, earth represents mother, and so mother represents nurturing. So this time of change on earth is a lot to do with we need to change the way we nurture ourselves. So if we were to mother ourselves in the way that we would really love our perfect mother to mother ourselves through this time, what would we do? How would we look after ourselves through this time? And how would we take care of our home space? Because Earth is our communal home. We all live on Earth. And in our own individual lives, it represents in our home space. That's what I'm talking about. Look into your home space, do your decluttering, do your getting rid of stuff, do your clearing, do your cleaning. And then Earth also represents family. So Earth is mother energy, and mother energy traditionally holds the family together. So as we're going through this time, some of us are going to be living apart from our blood family. Some of us are going to be living in our blended families. Some of us will be living in our soul families. Some of us will be living in a flat that's just a shared house. But that energy of family is all tied up with earth. So again, we've been asked to go home and come inside. So we're at home with our families. We're at home with the energy that holds us in community, in sort of small community spaces. So this energy that we're in with Mother Earth changing, it's about transforming how do we be in families? How do we be in larger families, which is our communities? And so in communities, we're looking, what are the common points of unity? How do we connect? So if we're with people, and sometimes we're with people and we're thinking, oh, I wish I didn't get in the bubble with them or whatever. I want to get out of here. But we've always got points of unity in common. And so part of this shift into this new time, this new world, according to the indigenous philosophies, is that we're coming back to more tribal-based living. And in more tribal-based living, people in the community had different functions. But they all had in common that we've got to live in this one space. We've all got to eat. We've all got to do some offerings that enable us to get food and enable us to get other things that we need. So the trading economy and all of that's going to come back into being through this time. And so in the same way that Mother Earth, we feed her seeds and she transforms them and produces fruit and flowers and we eat them, and that makes our body. We already know how to transform in our communities. We already know what we as an individual has to offer the community. And to reflect on that as you go through this time, like imagine that, we've all been sent home to our rooms, go to your room and think about things, right? So we've been sent home, we're in our room, we're thinking about things. When we come out of our room, what do we most want to do? What do we really love to do? What's the thing that we love to do, that we feel fired up for, that we feel on creative fire for? Because each of us knows what to do with this new time and what to bring up and out of ourselves. So Mother Earth, everything, the food comes up and out of her. This stuff that we need to do to go into the next phase, it's inside us and we need to bring it up and out. So to ask ourselves, what would I really love to do with my time and energy now and in the next month and in the next year? What would I really love to do? Because when we start connecting to our unique offering, right, because each one of us is original and we all have something to offer to the community, as each of us starts to come more into our own power and into our own sense of what we've got to offer life, then people get a whole lot more excited about the communities. And I believe this is part of the change that we're coming into. Like, we're going to be living more regionally for a while. We won't be flying around like we used to. So in those communities, in those, families and extended families that are right around us, from our own homes, our kids, our cousins, our friends, our whānau, our neighbours, we're going to be connecting a whole lot more now. It's a gift of this time. And to connect, one of the ways to connect with people is to connect with what do we have in common, right? So sometimes people who on the spiritual path or whatever, they think all this stuff, oh, let's be really spiritual together, rah, rah, rah. But the guy up the road maybe just, likes to talk about gardening or, internet or whatever. It's like, what do we have in common? So we connect on our points in common and just show up with that energy. When you show up and you bring your presence forward, you're really in your here now state, you're in your heart space. Really listen to what that person is signaling in front of you and connect through that. Don't lay over your stuff on them. As we show up in our potency, like just being in our presence, and really attentive and listening and sensing and feeling what's important to that person right now. Because these times will stir deeper instincts in people. People will share at deeper levels. Because the normal huss buzz of daily life and all the distractions of daily life, they're gone. People are at home, a lot of that, they've settled down a bit. So people will start connecting on deeper levels naturally. So for us to be a medicine for others at this time, it's like really give our energy to them, like what's important to them. Because the heart keeps us connected to what has purpose and meaning. It knows what's important. And as we show up in our heart space, that naturally brings that energy up in the other person. They will feel that space and they'll start resonating with you there. So connecting and really being available to those connections, really being aware of listening and taking your time, like really a powerful medicine for this time. Connecting to what you have in common.
Yeah, and I think that, as Cameron is saying, and this is for these times, even before all of the circumstances came up, more and more people were starting to come to that realization of what are their gifts and what are the things that we're bringing into the world, and how can we contribute. What am I bringing? What do I have to give? And I think that as we might be moving more towards this community living and sharing, then that is what comes into place. Is here, I have this to bring, and someone will need that, someone will want that. So making sure that we are staying true to what we bring, as Cameron was saying before, that each of us, we are unique, we are original. There's no one like you. No one can bring what you bring into the world. So what is it that you're bringing forward for these times, for the person next to you, or for 100 people, or for 1,000 people? It doesn't matter. Perhaps all that you have to do is just be a mother, or be someone that is the gardener, or be, it doesn't matter what's the role. Is that inner creative energy that comes out that enables us to actually live in that sense of community, and to be able to understand that we are the ones that need to create also that different way. Because who wants to go back after being able to stay home, connecting in a different way, cooking every night, whether you liked cooking or not, just being able to do that, having a different relationship with time, with sleep, with the rhythms of your life? Do we want to go back Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, traffic, computer, takeaways? Do we want to go back to those ways, or do we want to be part of the creation of the new? And it's going to need all of our energy and all of our lives to actually not revert back to that which we know that wasn't working. So what are we learning from this time? As Cameron was just saying, like we were all sent home, we were all sent to our rooms to rethink, reassess, and analyze. How can I learn and utilize this time in my life for what is coming? And a lot of this is not from here. The thinking is a lot what brought us to this space that we were before. We need that more heart-based approach, understanding our intuition, understanding our feelings, and being able to connect with ourselves and with others from that place. It's a different way of connecting. So what is it that is missing from before that we're learning now to take forward?
And, to ask the questions, just simple questions for now is, what am I letting go of? So you can, to practically do that and turn that into an exercise, you can just write it down on a page, 4 or 5 times, write it down for 2 or 3 minutes, and then sit with that and just write it down so you've got it really focused in your conscious thinking mind, and you just sit with it and just see what pops up. Maybe you might do a little prayer, or you imagine knowing the answers to that, and just notice what comes to your attention, because a lot of the times we've been very conditioned to education, just, we get all the stuff that pours into us. We're not used to asking ourselves what we know. So one of the ways that we can ask ourselves what we know is simply that. Just take a simple question, write it down a few times, affirm it a few times, and then just sit and think about it. Hold that idea in your mind and notice what pops up. Because the heart's knowing space, it's very deep, it's very powerful, it's connected to the web, right? It's connected to the energy web of the whole existence. And as we use the head, which is more like a spotlight, so the head thinking is like a spotlight, it focuses down on the detail. So we ask the head to go on a search for this detail. What am I letting go of right now? And then we open up to the heart space, which is more like the sun, like shining its light down on the whole landscape, where we can see everything. We ask the heart, what does it know about that? What am I letting go of? What is no longer serving me in my life today? And if this is a gift for me, like that old life is gone, what do I need to let go of? And we can ask ourselves that in terms of, physical habits, emotional, mental patterns. What are the patterns that you're wired into that don't serve you anymore? Because this COVID-19 thing, it's interrupted all the patterns. Before we can let go, we have to kind of get shaken up a little bit. So as Brian was saying earlier, like most people don't change unless they have to, or unless they're really excited about the new thing coming and they're running towards it. So partly what we're talking about here is like, let's shift the orientation to like, let's make this the most amazing thing that's ever happened to us. Consciously embrace that death of that old life and ask ourselves really clearly, what do I need to let go of? What's no longer serving me about these ways that I've been living? And what would I really love to do with my time in the future? And you take one small step towards that. Sometimes we think what I want to do in the future, like years ago, I had this idea, I'd love to create new healing models that bring people together, learn about the ancient wisdom teachings. They're in a heart-to-heart, face-to-face environment. They're sharing with each other, and that's the healing. So that was years ago I had that idea, and now that's what we're doing. So the big things can take a while, and sometimes it can shut us down. We think, oh no, that's too far away from where I am now. But the big things just start with little steps. So if there's something that you've been dreaming about, longing for, wishing about, daydreaming about, thinking about, really feeling like this is what I'd most love to do, you just take a small step towards that. And then another one and another one. And the path opens up when you start stepping in the direction of what you really love. You start to see more of the road ahead as you head down that lane.
Yeah.
Should we do some practices soon, Brian?
Well, I'm just
it's about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's almost 8. So I think that it might be a good thing to get into, perhaps if someone wants to share or ask anything, and see where everyone is. So if anybody has anything that you want to share or ask, either turn on your mic or just let me know and I can unmute you.
Hey, look at these little squares. Who's on these little squares? Hello, little square people. It's so funny, isn't it? Looking at that compared to live people. So beautiful that you all come. Thank you. We're underway. This is the first of many. That's great.
Does anybody bring? I'll restart. Yes.
One of the things I've noticed is we've had a role reversal in the last 12 months. And we've had a role reversal in many different ways. And in this time, I've got the opportunity to be an essential worker for a couple of days a week. I get out to see the manifestations of change in the community. I also do the shopping for the family, and that means that I'm standing in queues and talking to people at a safe distance. The interesting thing is how, if you look at it statistically, probably 1 out of 50 people is coping badly with the situation. Everyone else is coming from here. You stand in lines, you're talking to people you've never met, but they're not coming from here, they're coming from here. They're all embracing this as a time of change. They're all saying the same things. It's almost like a wave of knowledge just went straight through everybody's heads, and they're all saying the same thing. And you only have to look at how people reacted to Jacinda Ardern's announcement of the changes of our circumstances. No one's actually fighting it. So where's that collective wisdom come from? It's come from somewhere. And as you said, it's innate. It's come from inside of us, but it's almost like somebody's plugged us back into the matrix, into whatever the natural matrix is, and given us that knowledge. Yeah. And people are actually smiling. They're standing in queues and they're smiling. They're being polite. They're being observant. They're being aware. They're being courteous and kind and caring. And I don't know. I just think, how did it become so easy to slip into that, and yet require such a massive change globally to invoke that? How did it blows me away. Yeah, sorry, that's me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful observation. And it's the same thing happened in Christchurch. Like, that earthquake happened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 5 o'clock that day we were having barbecues with the neighbours that we'd never even met, and all getting water from a truck at the end of the street. So people know what to do when they have to go there. And that is the gift of this time. Like, we're in this time where the old way won't work anymore. So we're in a zone of high creativity. And when people need solutions to situations they've never had to deal with before, they'll find them because they're already there. It's just that we're usually so complacent and comfortable. And, as a healer, as a practitioner, I know that when people often come because they're uncomfortable. So the uncomfortable drives the change. And we're going through this change where some of it will be very uncomfortable. Like, a lot of people will experience financial hardship. That's going to be a reality for a lot of us going forward. How do we earn money in the new world? How do we feed ourselves? How do we pay the rent? So the great thing about these, squeezed times is that the creativity just comes up to meet it. Because when someone else is telling us what to do all the time, we don't have to do a damn thing. We just cruise along. But those days are, like, I think one of the gifts of this time is that we're going to need to be more empowered. So individuals will need to claim more of their power to share, steer and shape their own lives, because we've all got that power and it's in here. So the combination of here and here running together, then we know what we need for ourselves. We're just not used to knowing that we know that.
Yeah. And also, I think that I have always had the belief that everyone is kind. Everyone is a caring person.
Yes.
And because most of us have been living in this fast-paced life, busy, most people haven't even had the time to, as you were saying just now, like just smile at the person that is in front of you. Going to the supermarket, smiling to the person that is working there, or smiling to the person that you're like crossing a path with. Like, I find that now it's different to 2 months ago, that when I walk down the street, and this is no different for me now, I look at people in their eyes that are coming past me, I smile. And before that was weird. Some people like look at me weirdly, and now now this is the norm for a lot of people. Now you just come past the other person and you smile or you say hi. There's an acknowledgement. There's a connection there. So
Hello, baby.
hi.
Baby. Hi, darling. Hi. Oh, we got a little people in the party.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
So
oh, it's your nephew.
yes, that's my nephew from Denmark.
Lots of photos of you. Oh, you're beautiful. Hello, baby. Oh, how gorgeous you come to our party. Thank you. You having a good day? Yeah, and the young people are going to lead this change too. That's the young people already have the solutions. Like, look at that Greta. Like, she's driving through this massive thinking upgrade. Like, it's time, and this has been prophesied for years. Like, the time has come. We're just going to go through rapid acceleration right now. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so one of the things, like, and I think that this is going to be like a good space to, in the following weeks, as we continue this conversation, to be able to unpack even more. How do we actually continue understanding the space, the time that we're in, and understanding how we can get to the place that we want to go. So I think that in the next few webinars, we'll be able to dip a little bit deeper into how do we show up, how do we create change, and how do we live that life that we want to live, and from where is that coming from. So just allowing the time. A lot of times this is something that we also need to understand. Things take time. It's not I'm going to go and do one class, or I'm going to take one webinar, or I'm going to do this. Give me the 2-minute meditation because I don't have the time. Like, 2-minute meditation, it's like the quick fix doesn't exist. Things take time, and being able to bring into the space, to open up the conversation, to create the space, and to let that space brew with time and grow and see what unfolds in each of us through the time in between as well, not only when we are connected in the same moment now. Yeah. I'm just fascinated because my nephew is like just amazing there. So
He wants to eat his shoes. Gorgeous. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to share or say anything else? Yes.
I'm working at the restaurant, so I don't have anything to do. So it's literally like 1 month without work, and it makes me feel guilty at times because, you know, like people at the supermarket, they work doing something for, you know, for helping, where I'm here and not doing anything. And I just realized this lately, that I've been spending my time that to rest, and also I start to write a blog about my traveling journey. That's the thing that I've been want to do. And also I start to meditate every morning. That I join like Deepak Chopra, that 21 days.
Yeah.
And it just make me realize that, you know, that it exists, and the things in the universe that's showing me, and literally every day it has a centering thought. I didn't really believe in that things, and every day it happens to me. Like when I think about something, it happens, and it it's just out of my mind. And lately, like the past of week, a lot of you know, like Zoom meetings, and people just give like an Instagram live, they share their knowledge. And I just think like, well, this time is not really bad. And then people were just like, you know, oh, I can do some donation if you want to donate and help each other. And it's just beautiful. At first I thought it would be a nightmare, and now I think it's just time for people that to raise to think. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just like you just have to realize that
Yeah.
no matter how hard it is, just one positive thing.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that to you guys.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like, I think that for me, that just shared this, that change of perspective, because any situation, and I always share this, any situation, it's either a situation or it's a problem. I am the one that is choosing, consciously or unconsciously, where am I going. And this time, as you say, like, yes, there's a lot of people putting themselves at risk, and some of us know, like, like the government is giving me a subsidy, I can stay at home, like if I want to, I don't have to do anything. Like, it's that sense of, you know, not doing my bit. But as you just like perfectly summarized, when you actually like say like, okay, like how can I use this time, and actively like opening and to create that new life possibility. And that's beautiful. Yeah,
Beautiful. And to give yourself permission, because the old world was, you know, that we're rewarded for working hard, right? That's an old paradigm. And the Mayans talk about this time of change, that we're going to shift from the currency of money to the currency of creativity. That we're going to be more, we're going to have more time. So, you know, we can see this with technology, you know, like in my lifetime, there's been so much replacement of jobs with technology. You know, when I grew up, we had people on, I had a friend who worked on the switchboard for phone calls. People would ring up and make a phone call, and she'd go, nee, 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 and put this thing in, and, you know, like for receiving faraway calls and stuff. It's like that world is so fast changing. And so, as you were saying so beautifully, that, you know, as you know, at first you're a little bit guilty, but then actually, well, I'll do Deepak Chopra's abundance thing, and I'll start to use my mind differently, and I'll start to expand my awareness. And as I do that, suddenly I'm realizing I'm creating a new world for myself. So this is the invite of this time. We can all be creating this new world, because we've been longing for a new world because the old world doesn't serve us so well. You know, the old world way of hurrying and stressing. You know, I've seen that in my lifetime of practice that, you know, years ago when I first started practicing in the mid-80s, there were hardly any medical drugs for mental illness. So there was a few for things like bipolar, manic depression, it used to be called in those days, schizophrenia. But all these anxiety disorders that we see now, they didn't exist back then. So in my lifetime, we've got faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And it's just gone so fast now that it's flipped to the opposite. So we're being slowed down, literally, because that is the remedy for this slightly crazy wild world. And as you're saying, how do you say your name?
Gazaya?
Gazaya.
Yeah.
Gazaya. Gazaya. As you're saying, Gazaya, is like when you give yourself permission to slow down and change it and to do some good things for yourself, that energy's inside you. It starts to come out and the world outside you responds. Because we've been conditioned to think that the world out there creates our world. So right now, you know, if we're just watching the news and thinking that the whole world's about COVID-19, we're missing the fact that in our own homes, we've got spaces that we can enjoy. We can go out for a walk. We can enjoy the sun on our face. We can enjoy, you know, time walking in the grass. Like we have the world that we create comes from here. So if we're over-identified with the external world and all the changes of the external world, this can be a very worrying time. But if we bring our power back to our inner world, claim our power to think our own thoughts and to engage with this time as a gift, as a blessing, and make the most of it to, you know, transform, we will do what Earth did. You know, Mother Earth herself has showed us she's all about rejuvenation. Get rid of the planes for a while and the sky's clear. Get rid of the industry and the sky clears. Get rid of the, the boats and stuff, and the waterways will clear and the animals will come back. So that regenerative power in the earth is in us. We know how to transform with this time. We know how to rejuvenate. We know how to reset ourselves. We know how to refresh. That's inside our body. So when you go to a practitioner, when you go to a healer, a doctor, whatever, that all we're doing is supporting the body's mechanism to self-regulate and self-balance. And everybody can learn how to do that. You know, 20% of the people that come to us, we're always going to have to see because they're complicated. 80% of the people I see, not complicated. You knew a little bit more about your own health and well-being and how to balance your own energy and how to think about your life so that you can make sense of what's happening out there, you'd naturally settle down. And that's why Brian and I are doing these things, because, you know, people don't know. They don't even know what's inside the body half the time. They know the names of the organs maybe, but they don't know where they are, or how big they are, or what they do. So, you know, like this inside knowledge is what we're trying to bring out and to help people recognize we create our world from the inside out.
Yes. So I think to what Cameron was saying before, like making sure that all throughout this coming week, we take on and we remember to ask ourselves the question of what are we letting go of? What do I want to let go of? Because as Cameron was saying, when we let go of something, we're creating space for the new. And in order for the new to come, there needs to be space for that. So just making sure that we let go and we ask ourselves, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to give myself permission to explore or to open to that possibility? Giving ourselves the permission to just explore and play and be creative and do things differently. One of the biggest things for me is always doing things differently. If I'm used to brushing my teeth with my right hand, doing it with the left one. If I'm used to walking from here to a bathroom, can I walk like sideways, or can I walk like just walking back instead of forward? Doing things differently, like the small things that I do differently, creates so much change, because from an energetic standpoint, but also like in our brains, we are creating new pathways. We are not going to the same habitual pattern. We are doing things differently. When we do that, when we start to be more plastic and more malleable, everything starts to actually have that same circumstance and that same quality. So just giving ourselves that permission to let go of things and to come up with the new. Hi, Elliot.
Hey, baby. Baby. Hi.
So I think that we're a few minutes over time. So I think that we might just leave it here. Do you want to say something in closing, Cameron? And so we close this webinar and we come back next week.
So look at this little baby love magnet here. Like when a baby pops up, why are they so magnetic? Because they're just pure love, right? Before all the mind got conditioned and jam-packed with knowledge and all the rest of it, they're just this little loving creature. And so, you know, for us to, you know, share the love right now, like we might not want to go and smooch everybody that we see on the street, but, you know, just little acts of kindness and generosity and acknowledgement and respect and, you know, just the small things, the giving and the smiling and all those things, like that brings our vibration up. So we want to keep our vibes high through this time. And as we keep our vibes high, we'll see more of those possibilities. You know, we've already been opened up. Our patterns have been interrupted en masse. So there's a freedom that comes from that. And then to keep our vibes high with whatever we do to sort of do that. And, you know, love is a simple way, extending the arms of love, kindness, generosity, you know, welcoming, accepting, and that's ourselves as well as others, right? Permission giving, as Brian's saying, like give yourself permission. It's okay to rest longer. It's okay to stay in bed longer. All that's healthy, normal, natural at the moment, because when you're going through change, it's good to slow down. Big change takes a while to integrate. So slow steps, you know, one at a time. Don't need to know too far out in the future. The future will reveal itself. It does that.
And I just want to finish by adding a word that Cameron mentioned before, really important for these times: nourishment. Making sure that you are nourishing yourself, being nurturing, as Cameron just said, giving yourself the permission to sleep longer, to eat at a different time, to do that which feels right. As we're going to that period of instability, bringing that permission. So I just want to finish by saying that I hope that we can all remain in our hearts as we go through the next couple of days, not thinking even further than that, just the next couple of days, remaining in our hearts and asking ourselves those questions of what are we letting go of, what are we giving ourselves the permission, what are we opening to. So I think that's all for today. Thank you, Cameron, and thank you everyone for being there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a wonderful night or day. And we'll see you next week. If you have anything, we're always here. So just send us a message or something, and we're always here to support, to help, and to keep on sharing the love and the knowledge that we've been lucky enough to have.
Yeah. Rhoda, good night. Thank you for showing up.
Bye.
See you later. Thank you. Oh,
Bye.
bye. Thanks, Brady.